And it's not enough to simply say, as I did this morning, that God is the center of the church, because that begs the question, what do we mean when we say God? What do you have in mind? What does someone have in mind when they say God? So, for instance, for some, God is a judge with accusing eyes, ready to impose penalty on us, a stern authority figure, demanding obedience, ready to punish if we step out of line. For others, God is sort of the ultimate nice guy, kindly grandmother, only gifts and words of affirmation. So the reality is we can draw circles, diagrams like I did this morning, talk about wells in Australia, but if people, for instance, if their image of God is of that stern, accusing figure ready to pounce, you're not going to have a centered set of experience, because the God of the center is a God of conditional love. And the other way, if you're trying to be centered and someone has this really, do whatever you like view of God, and I'll be there to support you and give you a participant award, it's going to be fuzzy, even if you're trying to be centered. So rather than just saying God is our center, we must describe the God of the center. And so how do we do that? How do we know what God is like? I have a PhD in theology, and as you can imagine, means I've read lots of very thick books and all that. But really the key theological thing that I hope my students would take, and what I said in my last, sort of not a commencement address, but at a commencement party to let me speak, was if we want to know what God is like, look at Jesus. God has revealed God's self most fully through Jesus. So if we want to know what God is like, look at Jesus. That's, I would say, the most important thing I got from all of my theological education. So we, 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever we have this afternoon, we are not going to do this full, complete study, but we'll take a step at that. If this question is, we want to know what God is like, let's look at Jesus. And I think that Jesus, God incarnate, I think that Luke 15 is a great place to evaluate if the God of the Bible lines up more with the bounded approach or with the fuzzy approach or centered approach. So we're kind of doing two things, well, more than two things, but two of the things we're doing in this time is we're asking, what is God like? Is God more sort of bounded, conditional love, more centered, fuzzy? And then the second thing is just how do we see Jesus? Again, like we looked at Jesus this morning and observed Jesus was looking at direction rather than position, relation, line. So here's another opportunity. How does Jesus act? Is he more bounded, centered, or fuzzy? So at the beginning of Luke 15, and you can turn to it if you'd like. So Luke 15 has some very famous parables in it. But before turning to the parables, we're going to look at the setting of the parables. So the first couple of verses in Luke, I'm in Acts, that won't work. A related topic, but not what we want to talk about today. Council of Jerusalem. Okay, Luke 15, first couple of verses, it says, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus." So tax collectors and sinners are attracted to Jesus. They're gathering around him. And even there, notice the directional language. If we're looking at charts with arrows, their arrows they're heading towards Jesus. They're showing interest. So they're gathering around Jesus. And we might say, well, of course they're gathering around Jesus. Like, who wouldn't? But again, to hit pause, to think about their context. So these are excluded people, tax collectors, sinners, prostitutes, people on the margins. What would be their normal relationship with rabbis, religious leaders? What? Distant. Good word. I mean, like, run away from them. Try to stay away. They've experienced, shaming, insulting. So this is really quite a remarkable thing that they are attracted to going to this religious figure, right? I mean, we know who Jesus is, but at the time he was a religious figure, a rabbi. They're attracted to him. And whereas the Pharisees, would say, stay away, clean up your act, and then you can hang out with me. Jesus is not, and he's not just saying, okay, well, yeah, you guys, you can sit in the back row, we'll let you in. No, he's even eating with them, hosting meals for them. Radical acceptance. Okay, so what do the Pharisees think of this? What do the Pharisees think of Jesus? How can he do this? What?
They muttered.
They muttered. Well, we're getting to that. But just before we get to the muttering, what's their general impression of this action of Jesus?
They're scandalized.
They're scandalized. I mean, in the end, they're going to kill him. Like, this is a big deal. They are upset. Now, why are they upset with Jesus? Okay, so don't answer that out loud immediately. But think back to the morning. Bounded, fuzzy-centered. Pharisees, scribes, they are bounded. Okay, why are they upset with Jesus?
He's outside the line.
He's outside the line. But more than that, what's he doing? He's challenging their lines. So, yeah, I mean, in some sense, he's outside the line. In other sense, he's in, but he's messing with the lines. And this is problematic for them because they're trying to hang on. We're trying to live holy and pure. And their way of seeking to get transformation is to threaten exclusion. And here's this rabbi coming along, and what's he doing? He's welcoming the excluded. It's messing with their system. So, okay, so now we get to what Dave said. So here's the scene. So Jesus, we're going to imagine Jesus is over here. Tax collectors and sinners are gathered around him. And they are just soaking up this acceptance. So I invite you just for a moment to imagine yourself, you're one of these people, someone who's doing business with Gentiles, a tax collector, someone who has this label sinner, and this rabbi is treating you like you belong. He's talking about the kingdom of God as if you might have a place in it. He has even invited you to share a meal with him. How does it feel? Don't answer, just feel it. How does it feel? Okay, you're in that feeling. Now, so you're there soaking this up, this acceptance, and along comes some Pharisees, and they're standing over here, arms crossed, looking at Jesus, looking at you, and the day says, they mutter, but mutter in a way that everyone can hear, look at this guy. Says he's a prophet, but look who he's with. I hear he even eats with them. Okay, now how do you feel? That one you can answer. How do you feel now, the excluded people? You hear these Pharisees say that and you feel judged. What else? Resentment. Shame. Push more to Jesus. But maybe confused. But yeah, push more to Jesus. Pushed away from these people. But yeah, things are so calm, and then these people come along. Okay, so Jesus takes this very seriously. This muttering, grumbling of the Pharisees. He tells 3 parables in response. And we this afternoon are going to look at the third of the 3, very well-known parable. So it's 15:11 through 32, if you want to follow along. So we have the parable of lost sheep, parable of the lost coin, and then parable of the lost sons. Okay, so now a word. We just ate, it's warm. You have all heard this parable many, many times. Maybe led Bible study yourself, preached on it, and you could think, okay, well, I'll just, hit doze here for a few minutes. So I want to try to convince you we are going to see some new things in this parable. It's worth staying awake. So here's the deal. Jesus told this parable to people from his time and culture. We are from a different time and culture. Jesus did not have to explain things about the culture to them because they're in it. Great answer. They're in it. So for instance, we could go down to the Albany airport right now, stand there, where people come out into baggage claim or something, and we could see someone run up and give a hug to some, friend or relative they haven't seen in a long time, and we would not think, can you believe what that person just did, right? Very normal. Well, in Jesus' time, for a man to run in public was a scandalous thing. It was something that was not done. It was, what's the word in English? What? Demeaning. Good. That wasn't the word I was looking for, but that's a better one. It's demeaning. It's poor manners. But that's what the Father does in the parable. Jesus doesn't stop and explain that. Okay, now you're getting worried. You might think, this is an interesting tidbit you've shared us. But Mark, we really don't want to hear a lecture right now. Okay, so what we're going to do is, and first of all, where am I getting this from? So, and the reason I make this promise is I think, this will be new and exciting, different. We're going to see new stuff. There's a man who died, I think maybe just last year, Kenneth Bailey. So he was a child of missionaries in Palestine, grew up in Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, and then he himself, became a Bible scholar, New Testament, PhD, went back as a missionary to the Middle East, taught in Lebanon. So he knows the culture both from study and living in it. And he's written a number of books giving cultural background to parables of Jesus. And I read this book of his, I think, back in 1987 or something. And it awakened in me, I saw these parables in new ways. So I'm leaning on Kenneth Bailey here. But what I'm going to do is to make this more engaging than either me or Kenneth giving you a lecture, is I'm going to retell the story, but I'm going to pretend I'm a person living in the village where what we call the parable of the prodigal son took place. So for the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to pretend that I'm a guy, first century Jewish man living in that village, and I'm going to retell the story that Jesus told. But I'm going to add more detail to help bring in some of this cultural stuff that the people listening to Jesus' shorter version, they wouldn't have needed this. And if you want to, you can follow along in your Bibles to make sure I don't, stray too much, or just listen and enjoy the story. Okay, ready? So, no longer Mark Baker, but this guy back in the first century. Well, amazing things have been happening in my village. There is this younger son in a family that went to his father and said, "Dad, could you split up the inheritance with me and my brother?" Can you believe that? Has something like that ever happened in your town, your village? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like the son is going to his father and saying, what, Dad, would you just die and get out of the way so we can have the farm? So what do you think the father did? You might think, well, he clearly just, ran the guy off, scolded him, said, forget it. Amazingly, the father said, okay. And the father took the two sons, went out into the fields and showed them where the division would be, who would belong to who. And notice, what did the older brother do? Nothing. Went along with it. Didn't protest and say, I don't want to have anything to do with this. Didn't try to reconcile this breach between his father and brother. Went along with it. Well, as news spread about this around town, we're pretty scandalized. And we start talking about this brother. I mean, he's walking down the street and we're, insulting him. Look at you, look at this guy. So he starts feeling pretty uncomfortable in our town because of the way we're treating him all. Okay, so what do you think he did? Now, the obvious thing would be to go back to his father and say, sorry. You're like, let's just forget this whole thing, mistake. You know what he did? He tried to sell the family land. Now, think about that for a moment. He's selling family land. So what's he going to have to give his children? Nothing. But not only that, his father's still alive. Like, this is still his father's farm. He's selling, half the farm out from under his father. What's his father going to live off if he's taking half of it away? Well, like, he came to my house, knocks on the door, comes in, and I just ran him off. I said, forget it. I'm not going to have anything to do with this. But finally, he found someone, a guy newly arrived to town, merchant, cheat, I might add, who didn't have any land and was willing to buy it. So he bought it. Well, having the money in hand, this son, like, he took off immediately. He left because he felt so, unwelcome, insulted in our village. So he heads off and he goes to a Gentile land. And for a while, things are great for him because he's got all this money. He's living it up. But then, just at the same time he was running out of money, famine hit that area. And now think about it. There he is, a foreigner, like he was the first to feel the impact of the famine. Like, he's got no family, nothing, and he's desperate. So he gets a job feeding pigs. He's obviously lost all respect for our religion. So there he is feeding pigs, and he is so hungry, so desperate. He's feeding the slop to the pigs, and he's wishing that he could eat it. He's hungry. And then he thinks, this is crazy. Here I am wanting to eat pig food. I'm back at my father's house. They're probably having a good meal tonight. I should go home. But then he immediately thinks, what would they do to me in the town? And as you might recall, we have this law tradition trying to maintain the wealth within Israel, that if you spend your wealth outside, then you're banned. You've in essence said, I'm out of here. And we'll say, well, if you're out of here, then you're out of here. Don't come back. So he thought, if I go back, they'll just run me off again. They'll ban me. So he stays. He's feeding pigs. But he recognized, I'm dying. Like, I'm going to go back home. I'm going to risk it because if I stay here, I'm going to die. So he's heading back home, hungry, walking slowly, making his way back. And he's what can he do? So he comes up with this plan. And what he thinks is, maybe if I could get a job from my father and pay him back for this money, then maybe the people in the town would let me stay. Maybe we can work this out. But he doesn't know how his father's going to respond, right? He's assuming his father's pretty upset with him. So he thinks, I've got to get right to the point. So he's walking back and he keeps rehearsing his little speech and he says little because it needs to be short because he has to get the point. The little speech he's going to give to his father, and he's practicing. So, okay, I'm going to say, Father, I've sinned against God and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Give me a job. Make me like one of the hired hands. So he goes back. Now, he wished, understandably, that he could avoid all of us, that he could just, sneak in, back door of his house, have this talk with his father. But, we all live together in a village. Our farmlands is all spread around it, and his house is right in the middle. Like, there's no way for him to get to his house without just walking down the street where all of us live. So he's got to do it. So he's coming, and I was one of the first to see him. And he's walking slouched over like this, trying to hide. And he was all dirty. Clothes are just rags. His hair is all stringy. No sandals on his feet. But I recognized him. And I immediately turned to my house and yelled for my sons to come out because I didn't want them to get any, foolish ideas of going off and doing something like this. So I say, come out. Well, when I yelled, then people across the street, they come out too. And pretty soon there's this whole group of us on the street. And again, he's just walking down the street slouching. And we just start heaping abuse on him, scolding him, insulting him, shaming him. And then somebody says, hey, get some corn and nuts, start a fire. Because that's what we do for our banning ceremony. And but in that moment, I felt the group turn this way. So I turned with them, and you know what I saw? The father, his father, was running down the street. Running down the street. So I took a step back. I thought, this father is so angry, so out of control. He's doing this very demeaning thing. He's running down the street. Guess what the father did? Didn't grab him, didn't hit him, didn't yell at him. The father hugged him. And we all got quiet. Because here's the father who has the most right of anyone in the town to insult him, scold him, and the father hugs him. Well, then the son starts his little speech. Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. And then he stopped. He didn't say anything about, give me a job. He stopped. I don't know why he didn't do the whole thing, talk about giving a job. I think maybe one or two possibilities. One is, I think in his father's embrace, maybe he finally realized, this is more than just money. Like, I have hurt my father. I can't pay this back just with money. I think perhaps as likely, maybe more likely, is in that embrace, he thought, maybe the best thing for me to do is just trust my father, not put forward any plans on my own. So he did. So the father left no doubt whether he was accepting the son back or not. He responded by telling his servants, put sandals on his feet, the family ring on his finger. Look at his clothes, find him a fine robe for him. And then he turns to the other servants and he said, and go kill the fatted calf because we are going to celebrate and honor my son tonight, celebrate his return. Well, I was quite happy when I heard that. You notice he didn't say, go grab a chicken or something. It was kill the fatted calf. That means the whole town is invited. This is going to be a big deal, a big meal. We're all invited. Well, this is only half the story. You remember there's two sons. So I went out to work in my field a bit in the afternoon. I came back in a little early to get ready for this dinner party and went home, got cleaned up, and I'm walking down the street to their house. And at that moment, I saw the older son also coming in from the fields, and he sees all this commotion going on at his house. So he stopped and asks, hey, what's going on? And someone tells him the story about that his brothers returned and his father, hugged him and given him this stuff and had this party to celebrate and honor him. And the older brother says, forget it. I'm not going to have anything to do with this. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, the older son should be in the doorway receiving guests. I mean, that's his place to be. And if he's upset, we'll talk to your father later. But there he is creating this scandal in the street. What an embarrassment. So just then, the father passes by the door, sees his older son out there causing this commotion, and the father comes out of the house. And for the second time that day, I took a step back because I figured I don't want to get between the father and the son. I figured the father's going to come and grab his son, by the collar, haul him into the house, put it to him straight. And you know what the father did? For the second time that day, he surprised me. He pleaded with the son to come in and to say, no, your brother's return. Well, the son, he only made it worse. The older son. He says, look at all these years I've slaved away from you. You never even give me as much as a goat or something to celebrate with my friends. This son of yours, not my brother, this son of yours comes back after wasting his money on prostitutes, and you kill the fatted calf for him. But the father the Father responds with words of relationship and says, Son, you are always with me. All I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found. Now, wouldn't you like to know how the story ends? Like if this was a TV show, we'd have a commercial right now where we're waiting suspense. There's the father and the older brother. They're standing there. Is the older brother going to go in or not? Jesus doesn't end the story. So why doesn't Jesus end the story? To answer that question, we have to go back to the beginning. So who's listening to the story? Pharisees, scribes, and tax collectors, sinners. So the excluded and the included, the line drawers, they're both listening. So what would this story communicate to the tax collectors, the excluded, the shamed? What would it communicate to them? Don't overthink it. What would it communicate?
God welcomes them.
Right, they're welcome. They're welcome. What else? Unconditionally. I mean, there's forgiveness, welcome, deep acceptance. You are loved because they line up with the younger brother. Okay, what is Jesus communicating to the scribes and Pharisees? So to them, they're the reason he doesn't finish the story because they line up with the older brother, right? So it's up to them to decide how the story ends. Just like the other two parables, they're invitations to celebrate. This is the story. And he's saying to them, are you going to come in? Are you going to, literally, are you going to come to the table with me and eat with these people? So he doesn't finish it. It's up to them to finish. So Jesus, however, I think communicates more to the Pharisees. And I think this is a point where Bailey especially helped me. Because growing up, hearing this, probably leading it, talking about myself, I'm not an older brother, I'm a middle brother. But in this parable, I line up with the older brother, right? I told you this morning, I'm a line drawer, I was a good kid. And so I thought, what's the message of this parable for me is, it's kind of tough when God forgives these people that have done so much bad stuff, and here you are being good, but this is the way things are, and God is good, so go with it. But when we bring in cultural details, what do we find out about the older brother? He says, so picture this. He's standing there, he says, Father, I've never disobeyed you. And what is he doing right in that moment? Disrespecting his father. So, imagine you're having a big birthday celebration in your family, and, the 17-year-old son is really upset because you told him you can't use the car tonight. And he's thinking, but, when my sister was 17, she got to use it. And it's okay that the 17-year-old is upset. Going back to Doug's talk, it's okay he's upset. But the time to express his complaint is not in the middle of the party, right? We know that. Wait till everyone's left, and then you say to your parents, hey, what's going on, all right? But not in the middle of the party. But this older brother was doing that. Right in the middle of the party, he's carrying on. And throughout, he had demonstrated, how he talks. So Jesus is saying to the Pharisees, you are not as good as you think you are. Some are sinning outside the law, others are sinning within. Jesus is communicating that to the Pharisees. But observe, Jesus is not bounded. He doesn't say to the Pharisees, so get lost. You guys are wrong. What does he say to the Pharisees? Come to the table. Come to the table. So the love and acceptance is there, like the father in the parable. The father in the parable wants both sons to come in. Jesus is communicating that as well to the scribes and Pharisees. A gracious welcome to all. So, although we commonly call this parable the parable of the prodigal son, I really think the father is the central figure. The way that the father willingly suffers shame to communicate love and forgiveness, to seeking to restore their relationship as a family. The table is open to both. Okay, one more thing before I'm going to give you some questions to think about, talk about a bit, is let's return to the opening scene. And I think this is really important because this is a story within the story. So Jesus tells a story, but there's a story of Jesus telling the story. So at the very beginning, we're back at this scene. The scribes and Pharisees are, oh, look at this guy. Says he's a prophet. Look who he's eating with. Okay, at that moment, if Jesus is standing over here and he's most concerned with his reputation, what would he have done? What?
Gone to the other side.
Gone to the other side. You feel that? He's over here with the tax collectors, the excluded, the sinners, but these Pharisees are shaming him. And if he cared about his reputation, he would have come over here. Say something like, oh, hey, I'm new here to town. I didn't know who these people were. Hey, let's go have lunch. Right? That would be protecting his reputation. What did Jesus do? He stayed over here, told 3 parables, defending these people and inviting them to come here. Kenneth Bailey calls this a costly demonstration of unexpected love. In the parable, the Father, costly demonstration of unexpected love. Jesus, by telling the parables, costly demonstration of unexpected love. And Jesus kept doing that all the way to the cross. Costly demonstration of unexpected love. Okay, we are going to do a little bit of group discussion for a few minutes, and then we're going to end with with a reflective prayer activity. So, do you have your sheets from this morning? Hopefully enough of you do to get a quorum. There's a few others. So where you're at, just turn to 2 or 3 people near you, and on the sheet of paper it says Group Discussion Questions Part 2. So I've laid out some questions there for you. Again, no long discourses. Some of us in the room are preachers. Keep them short. Don't overthink it. Give you 6 or 7 minutes, so a minute on each. Anyone need a sheet? Is there a group without? This is the other half from the morning.
Thank you, sir.
If you're not on the fourth question, please move to the fourth one. Give you 2 minutes. Okay, sorry, I'm going to call you back. You are free to pick up the conversation later, but want to respect the time of things to come. So 3 quick observations. First of all, notice that Jesus is not fuzzy. So in the parable, the Father says he was lost, he was dead. I mean, these are terms that communicate he was off track. This is not, he's just on a journey trying to find himself. This is not fuzzy. He's calling, things wrong. The radicalness is the acceptance, even acknowledging that. Another thing I want to just make the observation that, obviously I think these diagrams from Paul Hebert are great, very helpful, but we say all metaphors limp, and diagrams tend to limp as well. So these diagrams themselves are not the gospel. This is not biblical truth. These are helpful tools. So here's a little example of how they limp. Observe that in the parable, the Father moves. Jesus moves. But in the diagrams, the center is still. So that's a weakness in these diagrams, is it communicates it's just us moving, but the reality is actually, God is pursuing us. So weakness of the diagram. And then having said that, again, back to where I started, a key thing in living out, having a centered approach is continually reminding ourselves that the God of the center is the God revealed by Jesus, the God of unconditional love. Okay, so we're going to do a prayer exercise that I have done many times in seminary classrooms, in churches, and in the Fresno County Jail. So all are welcome. So put yourself in the category you prefer. Okay, so what I'd like to do is invite you all to close your eyes. And where we're headed, we're going to go back into the story. But first, a couple questions for you. And I'm not going to ask you to share this with anyone else. This is just, for your reflections as we enter into it. Is there anything that you are feeling guilty about right now? And this might be, guilt from something you did this morning or guilt from something years ago. And then secondly, I want to return to what I said this morning, invite you to reflect on times, experiences that you have felt excluded, shamed, insulted, wounded by bounded group lines. And this may have been in a church, or it could be in a workplace that people are shaming you, insulting you, excluding you because you're a Christian. So just a time or times that you have felt shame and it's still rumbling around inside of you somewhere. Now, the third thing, and then we'll go to the story, is I invite you to think of people who have shamed you. And these people may have explicitly out loud shamed you. Or as often the case, at least with me, is I imagine them thinking things about me. I feel shame even if they don't say the words. So these are maybe people who have shamed you, or people that you imagine have shamed you, that say, you don't measure up, you're a loser, etc. Okay, now bring all of that with you. And what we're going to do is we're going to enter back into the story. So we're going to imagine yourself as like the younger son walking down the street. And those people that I just asked you to remember, imagine them standing on both sides of the street, pointing their fingers at you, insulting, shaming, putting you down. And now in the midst of that, imagine God the Father or Jesus, whichever works better for you, come running down the street towards you and embracing you. Rest in this warm embrace of Jesus. And if there's guilt that you felt, I invite you, acknowledge it to God, to Jesus. While in that embrace, say, Father, I am sorry. Still embracing you, Jesus whispers in your ear, saying your name, you are forgiven. But now he takes one hand off, still has one hand on your shoulder, one arm around your shoulder, and the other he points to the people on the street and says, my son, welcome home, my son. And he says to the people on the street, join me this evening in honoring my son. We are going to celebrate. And I invite you in this moment to imagine, to picture the shame you feel leaving your being and being transferred to God, transferred to Jesus, who's willing to take on our shame, even at cost to himself. And then finally, keep your eyes closed, but stepping out of the story, having experienced God's loving embrace, God's taking your burden of shame, honoring you in front of those who had shamed you. From that place of love and freedom, let's ask God, are there people around us carrying a load of shame that you are calling us to reach out to? God, please bring to mind people we might share your unconditional love, that we might invite to the table as Jesus did, that we might show acceptance, tell them of your acceptance. Thank you for your costly demonstration of unexpected love on our behalf.